On hot, sticky days in southern Louisiana, the fire ants swarmed.
Author Walter Mosley.
Next on Black Nouveau.
Good evening and welcome to this edition of Black Nouveau. I'm Milton, Dockery.
And I'm Faithe. We're glad you could join us. This week, in celebration of Valentine's Day, we'll have a profile of Michael Hightower, 98.3's master of moments of love.
We'll review this year's The Children Are Crying calendar and learn about some African-American history first here in Wisconsin.
But first, having written more than 34 books, Walter Mosley is one of the nation's best-selling authors. Liddy Collins spoke with him on his recent stop in Milwaukee.
The only way that you can really help somebody is to work with that person. One came up to me and said, how can I get my children to read? And I said, well, do you read? So I'm not talking about me, I'm talking about my children. So what do? You know, you drink, you beat your husband. Because when your daughter grows up, that's what she's going to do. You beat your husband. If you're not reading, you're not reading. You know, the thing is that you have to be doing the same thing. You know. I remember my father was upset that I wasn't reading. And my mother said, but Roy, the house is full of books. He knows they're important, so one day he'll be reading those books. I remember that. It was a very clear memory in my mind.
He's been published for 21 years with 36 books. Walter Mosley has been successful, even with a so-called late start.
I was telling somebody earlier today that I didn't start writing until I was 33, 34. I didn't get published until I was almost 40. So, and I was explaining, so, well, you know, I was already a failure. And so success, you know, had very little impact on me.
Mosley was in town speaking for an anniversary celebration for the Woodland Pattern Center.
I think it's great, you know, to have a community literary center and bookstore, and you know, a place where people can, you know, congregate, and there are a lot of books. And that's really a good thing.
He likes literature, stories, books of course, and loves art, and didn't think he would be in that world. And he's not sure of what led him to writing.
I was a computer programmer working for Mobil Oil. I was there on the weekend. I was a consultant, so I was, you know, just there on my own. And I'd get tired of typing in code. And so instead I typed a sentence. On hot, sticky days in southern Louisiana, the fire ants swarmed. Now, I'd never been to Louisiana. I'd never seen a fire ant. But I liked that sentence very much. And I said, this could be a novel. And so I started writing. At that moment, I started writing.
He's known for his mysteries, but his first book, Gone Fishing, was not.
Been around to a lot of agents, and the agents, you know, said, well, you know, it's very good, we really like it, but it's not commercial. What they meant is that, you know, back at that time in the mid to late 80s, they thought, well, white people don't read about black people, black women don't like black men, and black men don't read. So who's going to read this book about two young black men, illiterate in the Deep South, with, you know, and so then I wrote another book about the same two guys, only it turned out to be a mystery. I didn't know in the beginning it was going to be a mystery, but it turned out to be a mystery. And then people said, oh, that's a good trick, you know, a black detective, you know, as if, you know, I was trying to do a trick. And so, and you know, that sold very well. And also politically, mysteries are good to write because everybody reads mysteries. You know, Orrin Hatch reads mysteries, reads my mysteries. But you can get your kind of political agenda through that, or your social agenda through that, well, you know, while telling a fun story. So that's why I continue to write them, because people buy them and I think that they're effective.
Along with speaking, he was in town promoting his books, of which one is The Last Days of Ptolemy Gray.
You know, Last Days of Ptolemy Gray is it's a book about a man who's lived a very long life, who's entering a little bit more than entering dementia, and who has a very serious decision to make in this limited in his limited mindset. The thing is he says, you can be completely lucid for 3 months, or you can slowly fade into complete confusion over the next 10 years. What do you want? The 3 months, you have it, then you die. Or the 10 years, you live 10 years more, not knowing where you are, who you are. And he makes a decision and follows that decision.
Knowing intimately what addiction is and the needed steps to recovery, Mosley wrote a book entitled 12 Steps Toward Political Revelation. He said that Americans are addicted to various forms of confusion and individually don't have a political stand. And that's what he offers in this book.
For each one of us, about how we're going to approach political necessity and political change in America and the world. And that's what this book is about. What 12 steps could we take? And it's a monograph. So like, if you disagree with some of my steps, great. You can make your own steps. It's not like I'm saying this is what you need to do. Specifically, in general, this is what we need to do.
Easy Rollins, Socrates Fortlow, Fearless Jones, Ptolemy Gray, and Leonid are the characters Walter Mosley has brought to life in his various book series. And I'm sure he's not done yet.
Although MPTV celebrates African American history all year, there are some special programs this month that we'd like to bring to your attention. The following programs air within the next week, and you can get more information from our webpage.
After the Civil War, black Southerners were no longer slaves, but they were not yet free.
The sheriff could sell free black people to corporations and coal mines.
For 80 years, thousands of blacks were forced to labor against their will.
He said, if I don't go to work, he'll put me in the river down there.
One of America's most shameful chapters, slavery by another name.
Join the legendary Grammy-winning pianist and composer Ramsey Lewis as he performs his original symphonic concert about the life of Abraham Lincoln at the Kennedy Center in Washington, D.C. Proclamation of Hope.
Those pictures are from the 2012 The Children Are Crying calendar. Muhibb Dyer joins us to discuss this year's edition. Welcome, Muhibb.
How are you doing today?
Good. This year's calendar theme, Collector's Edition. What makes it so?
Well, this year is the 10th anniversary of the Children Are Crying calendar. It's representative of 10 years of photos, 10 years of poetry, 10 years of telling the story of the voice of the voiceless. And you know, from the very get-go, we set out to be more than a calendar, but to really impress upon the Milwaukee community, but the whole country, that there is a population of children out there that if we don't do anything about the crime, if we don't do anything about the violence, if we don't do anything about the pain that consumes them, that we're in trouble as a people. So the calendar has really symbolized a platform for activism.
Let's talk about some of those voiceless young people, you know, that you've experienced. Give me an example of something that you've experienced recently where it'll help the audience and myself understand how we need to reach young people, because we're seeing a lot of violence from young people. There's tons of things for them to do, lots of activity, but in your opinion, what's the answer?
Well, the origin of the calendar, we called it the Children Are Crying calendar because if you think about it, a baby's first initial response when they come into this world is to cry, and they cry because they have the inability to articulate what they really need. So a mother, a wise mother, is able to figure out if the cry means food, if the cry means changing. Fast forward 14 to 15 years later, what we see in the streets today and what we see fights in schools in Madison High School and the little 16-year-old boy who was just killed over argument on Facebook, what you see is children crying out, tearing up the classroom. That's crying out. And they're crying out because maybe they come from circumstances where their mothers are on drugs or their fathers are not in their lives. When I go in the classroom, me and my partner, Kwabena Nixon, we always ask the children the question, is your father there? And 85 to 95% of the kids in NPS are growing up in fatherless homes. So yes, you know, it is a problem if you don't have that appropriate guidance. I had one class and I had two different boys. One boy, he was so happened to be involved in the murder of the pregnant woman this summer. The other boy, his name is Marshall Trudeau, good kid. He happens to have finished his first semester at UWM. He got a 23 on his ACT, and he's just an exceptional young man, an exceptional student. So it really is about, I think it's an all call that the community needs to rally around these children and become the surrogate family. Because
sounds like we need to give kids desire, but
right.
Can you give a young person or another person
You can
the
be
desire?
You can be the catalyst for desire, but really deep down inside, they have to find that willpower within themselves to know that they are more than a product of their environment, but they're better than their environment in spite of. It still really comes down to the individual. But one thing in society that we have to do is we have to know and understand that, you know, our children are more important than money. Money consumes us nowadays. You know, it's kind of crazy. I was thinking when the Green Bay Packers lost, you know, individuals were in an uproar, but a child gets killed every day and we switch the channel because, you know, we're more excited about our entertainment, our money, our lives, and what we're doing personally with ourselves, while it's a whole population of children out here who we really need to serve.
We want to support the calendar. We want the viewers to support the calendar. How can they find out more information about the calendar?
They can contact me at 414-803-0374. That's 414-803-0374. Or they can hit me up on email at thechildrenAreCrying@gmail.com.
Thanks for joining us, Muhibb.
You're welcome.
Our annual celebration of African American history began in 1926 as Negro History Week. It was started by Dr. Carter G. Woodson, who is considered the father of black history. Our Liddy Collins introduces us to an educator who wrote a book on African American first to help her students get more involved in studying the subject.
This is the real deal right here. Okay, once you get to your third draft.
Why do we have to do this research paper? You know, these people are all dead. They have no connection to here. They're white. They just didn't see the relevance of it. So being the, you know, good teacher, you're trying to motivate them, keep it real positive and say, no, you know, you'll learn some great things, not just about dead people, but people around here in Kenosha as well and in Wisconsin. You're like, well, where is it? You know, they didn't see it in the history books that we have. They're like, where is it? It's not here.
So a journey was started to collect historical information and facts about Wisconsin's African Americans. Mr. and Mrs. Bonga was the first African American family to live in Wisconsin on Mackinac Island. St. Paul Missionary Baptist Church in Racine was Wisconsin's first black church. Facts like these can be found in the book Racine educator Andrea Bell Myers wrote, answering her students' complaint about their history books not being relevant and not having meaning. So she put together a book entitled African American First in Wisconsin and Other Facts of Diversity.
I want to make sure that there were people in the book as well that they knew that had a direct connection to them, and they knew that it was very meaningful and powerful.
Bell Myers and her family traveled to numerous archives, museums, and libraries in southeastern Wisconsin, gathering information.
What was the hardest part about putting together or writing this book?
Once you have it was finding just bits and pieces of information. So for example, one of the persons that was very instrumental in helping me with research as far as the human resource was Mr. Tommy Bishop. And he was a gateway counselor in Racine and a historian himself. He's also in my book. He's one of the first African-American substitute teachers in Racine. And he would give me names and give me information, but it would kind of tail off. So you would need like a little bit and piece of information that you need to find, but then you could have 10 books that, you know, that you would have to get information from. So just in one book, you could find one sentence that would lead you to the next find, which that was hard. That was hard, and I realized, wow, this is a lot of research, a lot of digging, you know, kind of like being a detective.
Belle Myers says she appreciates Wisconsin and her community a lot more because of this book.
I've grown personally doing this project, and in turn sharing that with the kids, sharing that passion with the kids, and they see the connection, and you see their eyes just light up and like, oh, my mom did this, or my grandfather knows someone who did this, or that. Then it comes back. It comes like in a circle. You know, I have passion, they have passion.
I learned that some people that had lighter skin but are still African Americans could pass, but some were just passing to be white.
History about Americans, African Americans, and like presidents too.
I learned about history of African Americans and about the Underground Railroad, how they had to live as slaves.
One of the persons that stands out is Caroline Quarles, which I teach here about. Caroline Quarles was a runaway, a fugitive slave from Missouri. Her story is quite interesting, and I tell it to the kids every year. She chose to claim her independence on July 4th in 1842. And she made her way north up here to Wisconsin. And she was fortunate enough to run into a man named Lyman Goodnow, who aided her in her escape to Canada. So that's a very interesting story. And even something to add to that, the Kenosha Civil War Museum opened recently, and I was fortunate enough to meet the descendants of Caroline Quarles and Lyman Goodnow. That was awesome. When I use my book as a supplement for the classroom and talk about Caroline Quarles, which is in my book, and show the pictures of me with the descendants, it's really like an awesome, you know, experience to see the kids' reaction.
Her degree in art was put to good use because she did the sketches in the book, thus saved money.
When you have to get photographs and things from museums and whatnot, it gets kind of costly. So it was a benefit, a definite benefit that I could draw. And also too, my son helped illustrate the book too. My two boys too did some illustrations in there. It was a family affair, definitely.
This book is about Wisconsin history.
A lot of people didn't know African Americans were even in Marinette County, for example, or even up far north as, you know, Minnesota, which was the Bunga family, which we share. The Minnesota claims that the Bungas are part of their history, and Wisconsin claims that the Bunga family is part of their history, when in reality, Minnesota and Wisconsin was one territory at first before it divided. So that's how we share the history of that gentleman.
And what would her students tell others about African American First in Wisconsin?
You could learn a lot from it, like about that there was African Americans in history that some people might not know about.
I would tell them that it's a good book. You get to learn about the history, and then you learn about other people. Not as much as now, but you get to learn about them then.
1, 2, 3.
Historical facts brought together because young voices communicated a need.
Oh, good for your research. Excellent. I don't know.
Next Tuesday is Valentine's Day, but you don't have to wait until then to hear Michael Hightower's Moments of Love on 98.3 FM.
You're in love, searching for love, or maybe down on love. There's a place to go to help soothe, heal, or celebrate love, and that's
Moments in Love.
Meet the voice of love, coming to you every evening on FM 98.3. He's been around the block some. He's a 1974 Washington High School grad who's worked at numerous stations like WAWA with the infamous Dr. Bop for those who know their Milwaukee radio history. He's worked at WNOV, WLPX in Racine, Tulsa, Oklahoma, and he's even worked in country radio. But now it's all about love.
Hightower with you here on Jammin' 98.3. We are inside Moments in Love, slow jamming today's R&B and old school. And Moments in Love is brought to you this evening by Chevy.
Michael Hightower has been doing the Love Show at 98.3 for about 4 years.
I guess I was the best choice to play some of the best slow jams in the city. I've been doing slow jams since I've been 14, you know. And I guess I was destined to do it here in Milwaukee. I started over at V100 doing it. We were doing, Mellow Moods. Did that for 5 years and then just progressed over to here, doing it here. Slow jams, and then of course now if you ever listen to the show, let people come in with serious questions about what's on their heart, about love. You know what to do. Plus, I'm taking your love messages at 799-9830 and by email at jammin983.com. If there's something on your mind that, that's bothering you about, love or relationships, don't be afraid to give us a call. It's a whole city of folk out here willing to give you a helping hand, and we're here for you. A lot of times when people call in and ask for a request, I actually don't do requests. I do love messages. I give people a chance to tell that special someone how they're feeling, what's on their heart. Pookie, I love you. I know we ain't getting along right now, but things will work out, that kind of thing. So they can stay together, because my whole concept of the show in itself is to try to keep people in love. And we all know that it don't work out all the time, but if you work at it, you can still make it happen so that 20 years, 30 years down the line, you could just laugh about the craziness you went through. Oh yeah. That's one thing lovers do. Keep good secrets, don't they? Except for when that stuff go bad, and then all of a sudden all your business out in the street. Make sure your friend. That's Alicia Keys featuring Tony, and Diary. Got Mike Hightower with you, Jammin' 98.3 inside Moments in Love. I am excited because I got a chance for you to win that Brian McKnight
Along with
prize
the listening
package.
audience, he tries to get answers for his callers for the various questions they call in on, like
baby daddy questions, baby mama questions, how do you get a man to commit kind of questions, those things that even me and you as professionals deal with on a daily basis. Why did he do this? Why did she do that? Three-way love affairs, somebody actually dating a married man or a married woman and trying to actually make them their own, trying to figure out why it ain't working out. I actually don't try to help them solve a problem. I try to help them find a solution to their problem. Because, to be honest with you, I don't know about love myself that much, you know what I'm saying? I'm still trying to find an answer to how to make things work in my own life. So we just work together at it. I got LaWanda on the phone line. LaWanda, who are you in love with tonight? Ryan who?
McKnight.
Oh, you trying to win, ain't you?
I'm trying to win. If I win, I'm going to have a heart attack.
Well, girlfriend, I don't want you to have a heart attack because you won't be able to enjoy the show if you do, but you do have a chance of winning. Keep listening. We are Jammin' 98.3 inside Moments in Love.
he knows the listeners are out there because when he poses a question, they respond, and the responders are usually women. Do you ever get the brothers to call in? Do you ever put it out there and say, brothers call in? Do they call in?
I do, because what I do is I solicit it. But brothers, you can call in. Fellas, you can call in and say, you know, what's on your mind. In fact, when I first started it 3 years ago, yeah, you know, guys don't support each other. That's why we be hanging all out here by ourselves and get beat up, you know. But I start saying, fellas, you know, a lot of the stuff that I'm doing here, I'm just like you, I understand, you know what I'm saying? I have my confusions too, so if you think you can call in with a solution to help us out, do so. And fellas start feeling comfortable and they start calling in, giving a helping hand, you know what I'm saying, with, you know, what's on their mind. Jammin' 93, Mike Hightower, how can I help you?
Yes, I I'd like to make a request.
You in love?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, but are you in love tonight?
Yes, I am.
You know what? It's funny. You sound like you in love. It's oozing all over you. Who are you in love with, girl?
I'm in love with Jose.
Jose?
Yes.
What's your name?
Dee Dee.
Dee Dee, here's what I need you to do for me, okay?
Yes.
I need you to say, Jose, this is Dee Dee, and I need you to tell him how you feel about him from your heart, okay?
What kind of personality makes a show like this flow?
Jose, you know who you are. You're the first thing that I think about when I wake up in the morning.
I don't know. I'm just me. I'm running the show. I'm the personality in charge right now, and I just try to be real. I am sincere. When people call in and they have a real problem, I don't try to really give them a solution, but I'll listen to them and see what they want to do. Because if you ever been in love, you know love hurts. When it gets there, it can hurt like a mud. One of the reasons I've done this show is to, and I open up the phone line just because I realize that when you are hurt by love, a lot of times you can't go to your cousin or your sisters, your brother, everybody tired of hearing you whining, you know what I'm saying? They could easily say, get over it and move on. But it's too deep ingrained in you. You can't move on. You need somebody to talk to, you need somebody that's gonna listen. And that's what I try to do. Open the phone lines up so that you know that somebody's listening.
And I just don't know what I would be, where I would be without you.
Ugh. Yeah, that's all mushy. Oh, you is in love, ain't you?
Yes, I am.
I am not mad at you.
Before we close tonight, we should note the passing of Don Cornelius, host and producer of Soul Train, one of the longest-running shows in television history. As host, writer, and producer, Cornelius was instrumental in opening doors for black performers and creating broader audiences for black music.
And we should also note the passing of James Etta Hawkins, better known to the world as singer Etta James. Her style covered a variety of music genres as she bridged the gap between rhythm and blues and rock and roll. They will be missed.
And that wraps up this edition of Black Nouveau.
Remember, in the coming week, do something to expand your world. Good night.
Good night, and thanks for watching.